Hello and welcome to Kev's English Podcast, Real English every week with your host Kev Dean.
Hello, it's Kevin here. Welcome to Kev's English Podcast on the English Native. So it's been a week or so since I did my last episode. I was intending to do it at the weekend. Today is Monday, but I was out and about on my bike doing a bit of riding about in the countryside, getting some exercise, etc. Anyway, today's episode is about frameworks, not templates, the smarter way to succeed in IELTS, TOEFL and PTE. Now, I want to talk about this because I've had lots of new IELTS and TOEFL students on italki, and one thing I can't help but notice is that a lot of them have templates, memorised sentences for both writing and speaking that they've picked up from YouTube or books or teachers who promise magic structures, etc. Now, recently, I've been doing some teacher training courses. I did a few for artificial intelligence for educators, which was very interesting. But I did the Pearson PTE teacher training course because now, since August, the PTE has changed. It's now specifically testing students' critical thinking skills. So there's 2 new speaking tasks added in Pearson PTE Academic. So I got on to Pearson and enrolled in their training for this new component, which I passed. The certificate is on my profile. So anyway, this critical thinking, this connects with topics I've covered in earlier episodes. So in episode 33, I talked about memorised phrases to avoid if you want a band 7 in IELTS writing. In episode 34, I gave you some natural alternatives. In 35, I explained why AI text often makes you sound like a robot. And in episode 37, I showed how critical thinking is a skill that separates a band 6.5 from a 7.5, especially in the writing section. So in today's episode, we're pulling all of that together. We'll talk about why templates don't work anymore. Caveat, unless you're at a very low level and you only need a low score, then they do. If you want a higher score, then they don't. So why frameworks are a better approach, and which ones you can use at IELTS, TOEFL and PTE, and how to practice your critical thinking so you're ready for any task. Okay, so templates versus frameworks. What do I mean? Well, a template is a sentence that is memorized. For example, since the dawn of time, this is a contentious issue, this essay will discuss, that's a template, a memorized sentence or phrase. Or in speaking, that's a very interesting question, so what's the problem? They're generic, they don't fit, and especially now that the PTE has changed its structure, they're penalised by examiners and artificial intelligence. So I was looking into this, and I just did a new TOEFL course as well, because they've changed how they assess you. And as I say, templates are okay up to a point. I've got a guy now, a Chinese guy, and he got 25. Excellent in both writing and speaking, but he wants more. And the reason that he's not getting that score is he's got some kind of templates, but he's not being as natural as he could, and he's not developing his ideas. But anyway, that's something else. So a framework, as opposed to a template, it's a flexible structure. They don't give you words, word for word, to repeat. They give you a path for your ideas. So for writing, I use PEEL, point, example, explanation, link. So your main idea, give an example, an explanation, and link it back up to the topic. For speaking, I use CLEAR or clear. Claim, logic, example, add depth. Return. So you answer the question, explain it, give an example, add a bit of detail, and return. Now, I'll put a handout for these on my website, theenglishnative.com, for download. Let me make a note of that. I do have a handout for this. Just make a note to include that. Add handouts so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, I've just made a note of that. Make handouts so you'll be able to not only download the transcript for this episode, but you will also be able to download the frameworks I'm speaking about. Anyway, part 2, why templates don't work. So in IELTS, examiners are trained to spot memorization, both writing and speaking. Templates drag down your lexical resource and coherence. In TOEFL, the rubrics reward organisation, development, and natural delivery. Templates waste time and don't develop your ideas. And in PTE, Pearson's updates in August, 2 new speaking tasks respond to a situation and summarise a group discussion. Now that's really hard. That makes templates impossible because you've no idea what the situation is and you've no idea what the group discussion is about. So you can't, So for older tasks like essays or summarise written text, there's some templates around, but for the new speaking tasks, no template exists. That's deliberate. Pearson added these new tasks to test your thinking, not your memory. Right? So Pearson, again, I did a bit of research into this, and there was a lot of problems in the recent past with cheating. Certain countries, I'm not going to name names, but you can probably guess, were having wide-scale issues with cheating, fraud, etc. So to crack down on this, one of the measures is introduce new speaking tasks that explicitly test your critical thinking skills, not your memorization. So IELTS had this before. TOEFL, they now do algorithmic assessment, but a human checks the writing and speaking before they give you your final grade. So it's not just artificial algorithmic assessment now. An actual person checks it out to make sure. And the same in the PTE. So frameworks in action. Let's just see how these actually work. Okay. Again, I'll put this into a handout so you can download it. So if you look at IELTS, writing task 2. Some people think schools should teach financial management to children. To what extent do you agree? A template. Since the dawn of time, the issue of whether schools should teach finance to children has been a controversial issue. This essay will discuss both views and give my opinion. That's not good. Now, the framework with Peel. In my view, schools should teach financial management. Many young people leave school, for example, so including financial education will be beneficial. Okay, or something such as that. Another one. Do you think it's better to live in the city or the countryside? Template. Well, this is a very interesting question. I've never thought about that. Some people believe it's good. Okay. Framework with clear. So answer the question, explain, example, right? Well, I think living in a city is definitely better. There's more opportunities for work and education. For example, you can attend universities, apply for jobs more easily. Of course, the countryside is quieter, but overall the advantages of city life outweigh that. So I definitely choose the city. That's the clear. answer the question, explain, example, etc. That's pretty good. If we think of TOEFL, prompt, the reading says fossil fuels are dominant, the lecture disagrees, giving 3 reasons. Now, a framework, right, introduction, the reading and the lecture are about whatever the issue is, in this case, the future of energy. The reading suggests fossil fuels are dominant, while the lecturer, he disagrees and argues, etc. Yeah? So that's pretty straightforward stuff. You just, the reading and the lecture, and you can use this for the integrated speaking also. Part 2. The reading passage is about blah, blah, blah. However, the man, woman agrees or disagrees for 2 reasons, which are, that's a framework. Yeah. And then for your body, it's always point and counterpoint. The first point the lecturer makes, however, the reading claims, but the lecturer explains. So, that framework, it's not a template as like such, but for TOEFL, your integrated essay, yeah, you have to do that. But for academic discussion, we can't really use that. I mean, a template for writing, you say, in today's contemporary world, many people think online education is good, others think it's bad. I will discuss both sides. That doesn't work. A framework with Peel, you could say something like, I think online education can be more effective because it gives students flexibility. For example, I work part-time and can watch lectures after my shift. This helps me stay engaged. So in my experience, that's good. If you think about speaking, independent, template answer. This is a very interesting question. It's a controversial issue. Many people think studying in groups are so. Framework with clear, you simply answer the question. I prefer studying alone. First, I can focus better without distractions. For example, when I study in the library, I finish twice as fast. Of course, groups can be useful for brainstorming, but overall, studying alone is more efficient. That's good as a framework. Answer the question, explain, example, illustration. Actually, I just did a assignment for TOEFL. Maybe I'll turn that into an episode where I talk about how you can use the framework to address a particular issue, which is independent speaking in TOEFL. Maybe I'll include that as well. Maybe I'll put that as a addendum so you can download that. So anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, go to theenglishnnative.com. You can download the script. If you're listening on Spotify, all the information's there, theenglishnnative.com. So I'll put all this stuff there so you can download it. If you're on italki, again, theenglishnnative.com, you can download all this stuff. Okay? Okay. So PTE, it's the same for the essay, for IELTS, do the benefits of online learning outweigh the drawbacks? Nowadays, the issue of online learning is a controversial issue. This essay will discuss both sides. That's basically the same. People use the same thing for IELTS, which I've already explained to. So, anyway, I'm not going to read through all these, but there's definitely something to be said for having a framework as opposed to a template, a memorized expression and a phrase. So, to wrap things up, let's talk about how to build your critical thinking skills. How can you do that? So, and I was saying, how can we do this? How can you build your critical thinking skills? So, the frameworks rely on your ideas. So, how do you strengthen this? Well, what I do in the classroom here on italki, I practice generation of ideas. We pick a topic, whether writing or speaking, and we spend 2 minutes brainstorming arguments for and against. what you can do, if you listen to something, if you read it, try doing a summary. Explain it in your own words. This kind of mirrors TOEFL's integrated essay and PTE's summarizer group discussion. And always practice with a framework. Use CLEAR for speaking and PEEL for writing. Repeat them until they feel automatic. So, to conclude then, templates are memorized sentences and phrases. Exact words, words for word. In the contemporary era, the issue of is contentious, right? That kind of thing. They're generic, robotic, and penalised. You will be penalised in all exams. Now, frameworks are flexible structures. They help you organise your thoughts and express them in a natural way. Yeah? So, PEEL for writing, IELTS, TOEFL, and PTE. CLEAR for speaking, IELTS, TOEFL, and PTE. And PEEL for summarising in TOEFL and PTE. And remember, what examiners do not want today is memorization. My recent research into current trends in IELTS, TOEFL, and PTE makes it clear they want critical thinking. That's the mediation component. They want critical thinking. They don't want templates and unnatural phrases. If you only need a low score, then you can do that. That's up to you. That will work to some extent. But if you want higher scores, over 100 in TOEFL, 110, if you want over 80, 70, 80, up to 90 in PTE, if you want over 7, 8, 9 in IELTS, critical thinking is key for both writing and speaking. So if you want more context, check back to episodes 33, 34, 35, and 37. Each of those episodes explains this, is connected. And okay, thanks for listening. Wherever, if you're on YouTube, Spotify, EnglishNative.com, iTalki, you can contact me at any time, comments below, etc. And okay, that'll do for today. Bit of a long one. So I'll see you next time. Bye for now.